You're more than just an average Joe in a new outfit. You are a magnificent man about town. Before you unleash fashions like Lucky, Lacoste, and Nautica, ask yourself, are you ready to look this good? Is the world ready? All the best men's brands, waist size 38 and up. DXL. You're looking good. Buy one full-price Harbor Bay tee or polo and get 75% off a second one. Now through May 11th.
The human eye blinks about 17,000 times a day. But here's a real eye-opener. UV damage can cause eye disease. And if you wait for symptoms before having them checked, you could lose your sight in the blink of an eye. Think about this. Your eye doctor has lens technology to help prevent that with glasses and sunglasses that block those harmful UV rays. So get your yearly eye exam and go to thinkaboutyouryes.com to find a Think About Your Eyes doctor near you. What have you got to lose? Brought to you by the American Optometric Association.
Welcome to another episode of Justice for All. Here's your host, George Yates.
Of it per se, I thought that it was more important and more interesting to list people who are having an influence on the Hampton Roads community, who either through their company's efforts or their own personal efforts or their philanthropy or what have you, that they're having a real impact on the community here. So I and the staff, the editorial staff of Inside Business, we have 3 reporters and 2 editors, sat down with associate publisher Mike Herron and I, and started working on this list, ranking the top 25 people in Hampton Roads, and then we have another 50 who come after those, and they're organized by alphabetical order. But the top 25 are ranked according to who we think are the most powerful people in Hampton Roads.
And when you say we, who has the ultimate veto on who's number one?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Do you have is that a democracy?
It's the first year. It probably took us, I would say, 6 or 7 meetings to sort through it. I mean, we started compiling a list, and I think the list was somewhere in the neighborhood of about 125 people, and we whittled it down to the 75, including the top 25. And there was a lot of debate around the table. I mean, one thing that we did is we looked back at the issues of Inside Business we'd published in the prior year and used those to sort of guide us in terms of the kind of impact people were having out in the community. Actually, interestingly enough, we put on a number of events in the course of the year, and we bring in outside judges to judge those various awards. But in this particular case, we do it internally because we think there's no one more qualified than our reporters and editors working with me and with Mike here and the associate publisher to determine who we think, based on our coverage over the course of a year, who has done extraordinary work in the community that leads to their inclusion on the Power List.
We're talking with Ed Power, the publisher of Inside Business, about the Power List. So let's get to it, Ed. Who's the most powerful and influential person in Hampton Roads this year, 2014?
Well, in the number 1 slot is Bruce Thompson, the hotelier and hospitality CEO who runs Gold Key PHR based in Virginia Beach. I think Bruce is probably pretty familiar to most of your listeners. He's in our pages certainly a lot, and pages of the Virginian Pilot. Bruce is overseeing some major reshaping of the Hampton Roads cityscape. Probably most people are familiar with his major development at the oceanfront, the Hilton Hotel, which took the whole level of hospitality and lodging to a whole new level in this community. And he's just continued with almost a military-like purpose to roll out other projects. He's getting ready to break ground in the next 30 days for a major convention center hotel in downtown Norfolk. He's bought the old Cavalier Hotel and also the one across the street on the oceanfront. He's going to renovate the old historic Cavalier and raise the 60s-era Cavalier on the beachfront and replace that with something that's probably going to look like something you would typically see in Miami, not in Virginia Beach. Bruce has been very involved in counseling the people involved in one of the proposals for an arena, a major entertainment arena adjacent to the convention center. And he just goes on and on. I mean, he just doesn't stop. He's just finished another 3 hotels on the Virginia Beach ocean front. So Bruce is really a visionary. A lot of people, think of him as just a developer, and some people have sent some ire, some criticism Bruce's way for various things over the years. But the truth of the matter is, he loves this community, and he grew up here, and he wants it to be a world-class destination, and he's very purposeful about going about making that happen.
Well, that's it certainly is a great city to live in now as a result of a lot of things that he's done. Listen, we're going to have to take a little break here. I want everybody to stay tuned as we continue our conversation with Ed Power from Inside Business. And when we come back, Ed, I'd like to talk about that arena project, okay?
Sure.
All right. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned for the next segment of Justice for All with George Yates.
Join us every Sunday at noon as the dogs take over the airways on K-Talk 1650 AM. National Canine Academy Radio, the area's only weekly hour-long show that is all about the dogs, with experts from all over the world offering advice on everything from selecting the right dog for you, training, veterinary care, dog food, and even working with your dog. National Canine Academy Radio, only on K-Talk 1650 AM.
Have you been injured in a car accident or other circumstance? Are you in pain, facing a mountain of hospital bills? Is an insurance company trying to get you to settle without an attorney? Call the law firm of George H. Yates, an experienced personal injury lawyer that can give you the advice you need to make the best decisions. Pick up the phone right now and call 757-491-8800. That's 757-491-8800. Call 757-491-8800 now for a free consultation. Spring is back, and so are the Norfolk Tides. Catch the fun and excitement as your Norfolk Tides take the field at beautiful Harbor Park. Bring your friends and family to root on the Orioles of tomorrow, today. Log on to NorfolkTides.com for more information on season tickets, groups, ticket discounts, and Tides merchandise. And don't forget to follow the Tides on Twitter and Facebook for up-to-date promotions and team information. Tides Baseball, minor leagues, major fun.
We doubt ourselves, we doubt our beliefs. We doubt our institutions, and we doubt the law. But today you are the law. You are the law. Not some book, not the lawyers, not a marble statue, or the trappings of the court. You are the law.
Okay, we're back at WHKT AM 1650. I'm your host, George Yates. This is the Justice for All show, and I'm got Ed Power with me today. Ed's the publisher of Inside Business. We've been discussing the Power List here, which is the annual listing of the most powerful and influential people in Hampton Roads. Ed, I know we briefly touched on the arena a little while ago. That there's several competing arena proposals for Virginia Beach. Before we get to that, though, I wanted to ask you, who was the biggest fall from your list from last year in terms of power rankings in our area? I know that we had some people that are new to the list this year. Who is the most significant people that are no longer on the list?
Well, it's significant in that your show has a legal bent to it, that the former governor of Virginia, Bob McDonnell, was number one last year, and, of course, it's not on the list at all this year. I think you'd probably agree that no one in Virginia is more embroiled in legal matters than Bob McDonnell, who's been indicted and will be facing trial along with his wife, Maureen.
I see that you made a comment about a Rolex watch in your forward to your issue. What's the significance of the Rolex watch as you see it?
Well, the McDonald's received about $150,000 in various kinds of gifts from the CEO of Star Scientific, which was a company that was engaged in some dispute with the state. And the CEO wore a Rolex watch, and Maureen McDonald had admired it and had asked about the possibility of getting one for her husband. So the CEO of Star Scientific procured one for him, and Maureen gave it to Bob. And for me, it was sort of the symbol of the whole mess that McDonald's found themselves in, accepting all these gifts. Maureen went on various shopping trips on Johnny Williams' private jet. His daughter accepted $15,000 in gifts for her wedding, and it just went on. And the Rolex, for me, was just sort of a symbol of the whole thing.
Well, it goes in keeping with your almost every year, it seems you have a bit of the editorial, how power does come and go. What's your comment on that?
Yeah, that's been a really interesting dynamic to watch over the years that we've been doing the list. It's actually it's a very fluid thing. You would think that some people would achieve a certain place in status in life, and the power would stay, and the list wouldn't change much. But in fact, what we've seen over the years is it's a very fluid thing. People go off the list, they come on, and it really is tied to the kinds of things they're achieving in the community. Sometimes it has to do with people who don't necessarily do anything that takes them afoul of the law, but they engage in philosophical differences with people, and it hurts their reputation, whatever the institution they're involved with may be.
You know, I was running through this list. It was just interesting. I just, in brief, going through the names, it seemed that there was, Thompson's a developer. You move on. You got W. Wynn, who's on your list. John Lawson is third. He's a developer. You've got Gary McCollum, who's in education. You've got Morgan Davis and Brad Schwartz at 5 and 6. They're both bankers. John Broderick, of course, involved with Old Dominion. You got Vince Mastracco at number 10, who's a lawyer, a very powerful lawyer with Kaufman and Knowles. What, in all your views of this, what do you consider to be a common theme that you and your let's say colleagues decide, leadership, whatever it is that you, what do these people have in common, I guess is what I'm asking, that you guys look for in terms of determining who's really the most powerful people?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, and it's a good one to clarify for folks, because some people might think that it has to do with just a title or money. And while certainly financial status can help someone achieve things in the community, we definitely don't limit it to those kinds of things. We like to see someone who's going out into the community and making a difference in a very positive way. So somebody who's creating jobs in Hampton Roads and embarking on new projects, growing their company, adding to the financial vitality of the community. Certainly, a lot of times people are involved in nonprofit and philanthropic kinds of causes. I think if you went down this entire list, certainly particularly the top 25, you would see that most of these people are involved in not one or two nonprofits and causes, but usually it's a half a dozen or more. So I think those are really the criteria that over the period of years we've gravitated towards that help us determine whether somebody belongs on the list or not.
Well, that's what's the most interesting thing to me as I went through it, because I would say probably it's fair to say that just about everybody on this list is in the top 1%, wouldn't you say?
There's no doubt that these people bring some serious financial wherewithal to the table.
And yet they, all through these biographies of these people, it's just amazing to me, the community involvement that they have, the civic involvement, the charitable contributions they make. It's really mind-boggling, the types of things that these people do, that have nothing to do with making money or it's all about helping people, it seems. It's really remarkable to me, really, how motivated these people are to do good for the community.
Well, one of my other hats, outside being publisher of Inside Business, is that I'm the chairman-elect of the Civic Leadership Institute, which is recently affiliated with Old Dominion University. And, these people on this list, they're leaders, they're civic leaders, and what they have clearly come to understand over time as their careers have blossomed and they've grown more prominent in the community is that the equation of taking from a community for earning your living there and having your kids go educated there and enjoying all the wonderful things and resources we have here in Hampton Roads, to do all that and not give back, that equation doesn't work for any community. So clearly these people have stepped forward and done lots of things as leaders to improve Hampton Roads, and they continue to do that.
We're having a conversation with Ed Power. He's the publisher of Inside Business. We're talking about the Power List of 2014, the most powerful and influential people in Hampton Roads. Ed, what's going on with the arena? I know we talked about that earlier. I know there's some competing proposals for an arena down in the ocean front. What's your take on that from what you've been able to determine is going on with that?
Well, it's a really interesting story. And in fact, about a month ago, we had a cover story in Inside Business. I wrote, actually, I don't write as much as for Inside Business as I'd like. I'm the publisher, so I'm overseeing both the editorial and the business side. But I did write a long piece about the proposal that Bruce Thompson's involved with, and that's being headed up by John Lawson, the CEO of WM Jordan Construction Company.
And he's number 3 on the list, I see, John Lawson.
Yeah, John's a really interesting guy.
And he's moved up a lot. He's moved up quite a bit from last year. Both Thompson and Lawson moved up they were both on the list last year, but they moved up as a result.
That's right. I think Lawson rather moved up from something like 16 to 3. And the reason is that, John's been stepping out in more prominent and visible ways, particularly the arena deal and his involvement in that, being a partner in that proposal with Comcast, which is based in Philadelphia. Certainly not only a large American company, but an international communications and media company, which works with Live Nation, which is certainly your listeners would be familiar with that company, which books major talent acts all over the country. So. But basically, about 18 months, almost 2 years ago, there was a proposal that was put forth to build an arena and bring the Sacramento Kings basketball team here to Virginia Beach, and that fell through. But the problem with that deal was it needed too much public financing. They were looking for something like $80 million from the state of Virginia, and that was just the start. And so Bruce Thompson very quietly actually went out, started working with the WM Jordan company, the team there, the engineering team there, and John Lawson, and they went out and started talking with various players like Comcast and a major engineering and architectural firm in Texas called HKS, and basically they mapped out a plan to build an arena for a lot less cost than what the original deal had been. This one's in the neighborhood of about $200 million versus the other one, which was in the neighborhood of about $350 million. So while they were putting their proposal together, a second team came forth, and it involved Steve Ballard, who is the CEO and president of SB Ballard Construction Company. It involves Eddie Garcia, who is a pretty well-known developer in the Virginia Beach area. He's been here. He actually lives a lot of the year in Florida, but he's been involved in this community for decades. And so they put together a proposal which is being backed by Chinese investors. And so the two proposals have been submitted to the city of Virginia Beach. They're evaluating both right now, and my understanding is that in about 30 days, maybe a little sooner, the city will start to make known what its conclusions are as it's been vetting both of these proposals. We don't have a sense of when an actual decision will be made, whether it's in the next couple months or could drag on into the later part of the summer. But definitely the process is playing out, and I believe, and a lot of people believe, it's not a matter of whether an arena will be built here. One will be built. It's just a matter of which proposal.
Well, my understanding is the way the numbers have come out on the arena, they've figured out a way to make money on that arena without a pro team. Is that right?
That's right. If you look at what Comcast could bring to the table, in particular with all the acts it has exclusive rights to, they could book out a calendar basically around the year, through the year, that would generate enough ticket sales and other kinds of sales and generate enough taxes for the city and enough profits for the partners to make it worthwhile even without a pro team. But I think almost inevitably they will get a pro team, probably either hockey or basketball, sooner than later.
Well, I'm talking with Ed Power from Inside Business. This is the power list that we've been discussing today. Since this is a show about, to some extent, about the law, who are the top lawyers on your list? If you're going to do a quick rundown, let's say we've got just a couple of minutes before break, Ed.
Well, Vince Mistracco, who you mentioned, is an extremely prominent lawyer, and I don't think there's a big deal that goes down in Hampton Roads that Vince doesn't have some connection to. He's some people refer to him as the Rainmaker, and he really has been over the years. He's a guy that when I want to find out what's going on with various deals and deals that may be coming to town, I dial him up and try to see what he can tell me. Obviously, being a lawyer and having confidential information, a lot of things he can't share, but he's definitely a guy with a lot of insights into projects that are going on in Hampton Roads and also into what's going on at the state level related to those projects. And
any other top lawyers on that list?
We have, throughout the list, we definitely have other lawyers. Tom Franz would be a guy, I think, whose name is familiar, definitely involved in a lot of community engagement and things going on in the community. But, yeah, I mean, we have a wide range of folks. I mean, the business people we've been talking about, we have some politicians, we have lawyers. We even have, for the first time ever, in the top 25, a Navy officer, which is kind of unusual.
That was Mary Jackson, right? Captain?
Mary Jackson, who is number 25. She's a captain, but soon to be a rear admiral. Very, very bright, talented lady, and she's engaged in things outside of just her Navy duties. She's involved in various community initiatives and sits on some boards, and just a very, very bright, talented person who connects with a lot of people around the community.
Well, listen, everybody out there, stay tuned as we continue our conversation with Ed Power and the Power List. This is Justice for All. I'm your host, George Yates. We'll be back in just a minute after a break or two.
Stay tuned for the next segment of Justice for All with George Yates.
Join us every Sunday at noon as the dogs take over the airways on K-Talk 1650 AM. National Canine Academy Radio, the area's only weekly hour-long show that is all about the dogs, with experts from all over the world offering advice on everything from selecting the right dog for you, training, veterinary care, dog food, and even working with your dog. National Canine Academy Radio, only on K-Talk 1650 AM.
Have you or a loved one been accused of a crime? If so, the law firm of George H. Yates knows how to navigate the legal system and offer you the best possible defense. George is a former prosecutor and has valuable experience from both sides of the courtroom. Pick up the phone right now and call 757-491-8800. That's 757-491-8800. Great legal advice does not have to be expensive. Call 757-491-8800 now for a free consultation.
Fink's Car Care, with locations in Chesapeake and Portsmouth, is your dedicated Tire Stars dealer. At Fink's, their experienced staff specializes in brakes, steering, suspension, tune-ups, oil changes, and much more. They also handle rebuilt engines and transmissions, and they're your destination for tires, rims, and towing as well. Fink's is located at 2236 South Military Highway at 2711 Victory Boulevard. For more information, log on to finkscarcare.com or call 545-3573.
You are out of order! You're out of order! You're out of order! The whole trial is out of order! They're out of order!
Hi, we're back with Justice for All. I'm George Yates. I'm your host, and I'm here with Ed Power, who's the publisher of Inside Business. We've been going over the Power List of 2014, the most powerful and influential people in Hampton Roads. Ed, listen, tell me a little bit about yourself here. I know that you've been running this newspaper here. It's sort of, what do you call this, a magazine, a tabloid? It's kind of a, what is Inside Business?
Well, the format is a tabloid as opposed to the Virginian Pilot, which is what we call a broadsheet.
And
but that's really the way we print it. But yeah, Inside Business is a business journal, and we're one of about roughly 85 in the country that are what we would call independent business journals. And there's actually a membership organization called the Alliance of Area Business Publications. There's also one other large entity, which is American City Business Journals, which is based in Charlotte. And they own about 35 to 40 business journals around the country as well.
Well, who reads this? Who gets this? This magazine. I get it, of course, in my office, but I think it's very informative. I get it every week. I read through it every week. I'm impressed with its quality, its content. Who are your readers?
Well, we have about 10,000 subscribers who get it every week. We're 52 times a year. We call them decision makers. They're people who are running companies. They might be vice presidents. They might be general managers, and a lot of them are obviously people who own their own companies. So solid small businesses, but basically people who are really engaged in the financial health of Hampton Roads, and that's our audience. We obviously circulate the business journal to them, the print, but we also have a very robust website, InsideBizBiz.com. We also put on a number of events in the course of a year, things like the Top 40 Under 40, the Women in Business Achievement Awards, Best Places to Work. And so in the course of the year, we'll put on somewhere in the neighborhood of about 20 events that definitely are aimed at the business community and allowing people from the business community to come together and network and celebrate various achievements in the course of the year.
What is your favorite besides the Power List? Your favorite?
Well, the Power List is a lot of fun. I have to admit. I mean, we weren't sure what was going to happen when we launched it the first year, and I have to admit, I started calling it the gift that keeps on giving because we get so much reaction to it. I mean, good and bad. We get people who were very thankful to be on it, and clearly felt that it was an honor. And then we had people who complained, or people who called and complained about somebody they thought should have been on it. And we still get some of that. And the first issue was a little bit more of a difficult enterprise because we were starting from scratch. And again, we had to, probably whittle it down over the course of a couple of months and edit it and change it. And so, but it's we've kind of refined it over time, and we feel like we really got it going well now, and people look forward to it.
I guess it's kind of an honor to get on the list, right?
Well, we hope so. Certainly, again, the feedback we get from people is that they appreciate being on the list. I mean, we've had a couple people who've said that they wish they weren't on the list because they don't like that limelight, but that's probably more of a personal reaction than it is the typical reaction, which is people are very happy to be on it and they feel honored, and so it's been fun working on it. And
has anybody offered you a Rolex?
Absolutely not.
Well, I was just wondering. I mean, I would bet there are some people that try to get on your list. I mean, is there any of that? Is there any jockeying for position?
There is some of that. We do get some lobbying, and it's fine. I mean, we take it as a compliment when people sort of lobby a little bit to be on the list. I mean, it means something to them, and we've seen people even quote the fact that they're on the list in their resume or in their various professional qualifications. So it's been nice to see how receptive the business community has been to this thing, and clearly they enjoy reading it and they talk about it a lot. I was at an event earlier this week, a Bank of America economic forecast event at Old Dominion, and a number of people were asking about it and talking about it because they knew it was coming out.
I would guess that maybe puts you as one of the power people if you are able to decide who the movers and shakers are in our area.
I've had some friends who've joked with me about that and chided me and said, why aren't you on this list? But that's not my place. I'm ultimately, I started out in this business as a journalist. I was a reporter and then an editor, and now I'm a publisher, and I have to remain outside of the scope of this thing. And this is about everybody else in the business community, not about me.
Well, I'm noticing that. Who are the top educators on your list?
So John Broderick is obviously a very prominent guy in the community. I mean, Old Dominion is just an amazing story, I think. I don't think that anyone who's lived here for the kind of years I have, I mean, I was born here, but even if you've lived here only a decade or so, you would know just visibly, if nothing else, what has happened at Old Dominion and with this football stadium and all the other development that's gone on there and the expansion of the programming there. And it's really becoming a very prominent educational institution, not just in Hampton Roads, but around the state and even beyond the state.
Yeah, this there's another educator. I guess I'm looking at number 4 on your list, Gary McCollum.
Well, Gary's the vice president of Cox Communications operations all over the state of Virginia. Speaking of interesting people, Gary has got just an incredible story. He grew up in Richmond. He grew up in the projects in Richmond, and it's a great success story. He went through school. He ultimately joined the Army, became an Army Ranger, paratrooper, and when he left the Army as an officer, he went to work for Cox and worked his way up to the point that he's now running all their operations in Virginia. Incredibly community-minded guy, very big champion of early childhood education, and just a super nice guy. Yeah, I know Gary pretty well, and he's just a great person.
That's what I noticed about your biography of him was his early education. You don't see that many people, not enough people, talking about that.
Right.
Well, what about politicians? I noticed you've got Paul Frame and Will Sessoms in there, and you've got our congressional delegation. What do you have to say about the politicians on your list?
Well, the Paul Frame and Will Sessoms, even though they're very good friends and they get along extremely well with each other, there is a sort of a fun rivalry between those two guys because they're both trying to grow their cities and keep their cities at the forefront of what's happening here in Hampton Roads. And you really see that in terms of the projects going on right now. Paul's about to finish up a couple of major things. There's a new library being built in downtown Norfolk called the Slover Library, which was funded by the Batten family, which, by the way, are the major shareholders and owners of the Virginian Pilot and ultimately of the company I oversee. And they've given north of $50 million for this state-of-the-art library that's going into downtown Norfolk, which will open, I think, pretty soon. I mean, certainly in the next 6 months or so. And then, of course, the Convention Center Hotel that's going to break ground here shortly, the one I was talking about earlier that Bruce Thompson's involved in. So another major project in downtown Norfolk. And then we've been talking about the arena. We've been talking about some of the oceanfront hotels here that Bruce Thompson's involved in. And, of course, Will Sessoms, being mayor of Virginia Beach, is thrilled about all that. So there's this fun rivalry that goes on between those two guys, but ultimately I think they both really want the best for Hampton Roads.
The theme I see from so many of these folks is they talk about regionalism. What is the problem with our area in the past where I guess these areas have not been able to work together? I mean, isn't that what we're talking about? The two mayors being able to work together to get light rail, for instance, and everybody working together to, let's say, to get an arena, to get the various communities working together. I see a common theme throughout these leaders talking about regionalism. Regionalism actually extending even all the way to Richmond, let's say. What's your take on all of that?
Well, we could almost do a whole show on just the history of what led to the situation that we have with regionalism or the lack thereof, because a lot of people complain about there not being enough regionalism and enough regional spirit in this area. But basically, Norfolk was many years ago, many decades ago, Norfolk was the central municipal entity in what we now call Hampton Roads, and Virginia Beach was really just mostly countryside and farmland. And over time, what was known then as Princess Anne County became the city of Virginia Beach, and it started to evolve and develop very quickly. So I think there was sort of a rivalry that took place as Virginia Beach came on strong, and Norfolk tried to stay ahead, and then you've had Chesapeake, which of course again was pretty mostly farmland many decades ago, and that became a city. And So there's been this competitiveness over the years, and what's happened now is that people realize, that people running these cities realize they've got to work together more because resources are tight, and it doesn't get any cheaper running these major municipal entities. So there's a lot of discussion going on about cooperating more on things like waste management or things like purchasing. So, major purchasing goes on in all these cities, and they probably don't do it as efficiently and cost effectively as they could if they join forces and purchase things together. They probably get better pricing. So there's a lot going on that I think in light rail you mentioned. That's another one where, we'll see what happens. But I think light rail will certainly come to the town center. The Norfolk built the light rail only so far, Newtown Road area. I think it'll certainly come to town center, and I think ultimately it probably will come to the ocean front.
A lot of people don't that haven't been around here forever don't remember, but back in 1963 when we did the merger, when Virginia Beach merged with Princess Anne County and Suffolk and Chesapeake all did their mergers, that just kind of made Norfolk like minor league. Norfolk was never able to get larger. They were the natural leader, it seemed to me, but when they were constrained by the cities' mergers with the counties, their tax base just died, and it seemed we've been fighting each other ever since.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, Norfolk is now land bound, and a lot of that has to do with water. I mean, the rivers and the bay and all that, and Norfolk doesn't have many opportunities to grow, certainly in terms of major economic development on large tracts of land. But Norfolk's kept pace, and there's some good projects that are coming in there. The Waterside Marketplace, which was developed some decades ago, is going to be refurbished and relaunched in a whole new way, and that looks like an exciting project. There's a major outlet mall that's going to be developed over by the Lake Wright property where the golf course is there. And it's going to take up something in the neighborhood of, I think, about 50 acres. So, yeah, I mean, Norfolk's really kept pace, and I think Paul has done an amazing job as he's been in that job as mayor of Norfolk for, I think, something like 20 years now. He's running for re-election right now, and I happened to see him recently, and I asked him in his last election what his margin was in terms of the voting, and he said he won with 65% of the vote. And, I mean, these days, that's unheard of almost. So he's done a great job.
Yeah, well, he was referred to in your publication by someone as mayor for life. Well, listen, we're talking with Ed Power. He's the publisher of Inside Business. We're going to go to a break in a little bit. I'd like everybody to stay tuned because we want to talk about some of the upcoming topics with Inside Business Magazine coming up in the future. So we'll be right back after a break.
Have you been injured in a car accident or other circumstance? Are you in pain, facing a mountain of hospital bills? Is an insurance company trying to get you to settle without an attorney? Call the law firm of George H. Yates, an experienced personal injury lawyer that can give you the advice you need to make the best decisions. Pick up the phone right now and call 757-491-8800. That's 757-491-8800. Call 757-491-8800 now for a free consultation.
Attention gun enthusiasts, your complete store for guns is at 240 North Battlefield Boulevard in Chesapeake. Tom and the staff will assist you with tactical guns, custom AR builds, and they handle service and repair. Battlefield Guns and Ammo has specials, and they buy, sell, trade, consign, and do FFL transfers, and always look out for the military and the police. Log on to BattlefieldGunshop.com and call 410-7720. Open Monday through Saturday, this is your store for guns, ammo, and accessories. Battlefield Guns and Ammo in Chesapeake.
The place the locals and tourists go for U.S. rare coins and currency is Newcastle Coins and Collectibles in Chesapeake. They specialize in U.S. silver and gold coins, provide free verbal offers, and are always buying U.S. rare coins. Visit them at 681 North Battlefield Boulevard in Chesapeake, across from Chesapeake General, Tuesday through Saturday, and online at NewcastleCollectibles.com. Call 609-3633. That's 609-3633 for Newcastle Coins and Collectibles.
Hi, we're back. I'm George Yates. I'm the host of Justice for All, and we're here on WHKT AM 1650. And my guest today is Ed Power, who's the publisher of Inside Business. And we've been talking about the Power List, which is the Ed's annual listing of the most powerful people who influence and shape our area here in Hampton Roads. Ed, of all the people that are on your list, and I'm taking the whole top 75, who was the biggest surprise to you this year? Let's say as you began compiling your list, who's or either the biggest surprise or the most interesting story, let's say, as to where you ranked certain individuals this year?
Well, the biggest surprise would definitely have to be Helen Dragas. Helen is pretty well known in Hampton Roads, the Dragas Companies, which she is CEO and president of. It's a family business that's been in Hampton Roads for many decades. Her father, George Dragas, founded it. Helen was ranked around the number 11 2 years ago on the list. Very prominent female executive, obviously, in the community. And Helen has been serving on the University of Virginia Board of Visitors. And she embarked with a couple of other board members on an effort to basically terminate Teresa Sullivan, the president of the University of Virginia. This took place about 18 months ago or so, and it was a failed effort. Ultimately, she basically drew the ire of all kinds of professors at UVA and many, many alumni who were extremely unhappy with the way she handled it. She herself has described it as a near-death experience, and it has admitted that it could have been handled better. But she really was ringing the alarm around the fact that she felt University of Virginia did not have a sound strategic vision and strategic plan for the future. Obviously, there's lots of changes going on in higher education with a lot of things going online and all the pressures around students being able to afford higher education. And Helen felt that there were real issues that the university administration was not facing. Because of all of that, just basically because of such negative reactions that took place, we dropped Helen from her ranking 2 years ago at number 11 to number 25 last year. So in the 2013 Power issue, she was 25. So we barely kept her on that top tier of powerless people. But, a lot of people called for Helen to resign from the Board of Visitors at UVA. And she was under a lot of pressure and a lot of scrutiny. The Washington Post had major stories about all this. She could have easily said, okay, I'm going to resign, gone back to running her business, stepped out of the limelight, the public spotlight. But she didn't do that. She's a very tenacious lady. She's very smart. She said, no, I'm going to stay here on this board because I believe in what I'm trying to champion here. I think there really are genuine issues related to the affordability of college education, and particularly at Virginia, because the tuition is now, I want to say it's up in this $26,000 range. So it's continued to go up and up. And Helen stayed on that board, and she's continued to, like I said, champion and fight for the things she believes in. So to me, that's a great story. I mean, she believes in her own vision, and she's not going to back down. And I think that because of that, we felt like she deserved to move back up on the list. So she comes in this year at number 14. So that was a surprise, actually, when we sat down to talk about people, that the debate and conversation among the Inside Business staff ended up causing us to move her back up. So that was a big surprise.
Well, she really seemed to have her heart in the right place. I mean, she was battling to keep college costs down.
Yeah, absolutely. And who could argue with that? I mean, it's a real issue.
And why was she having resistance on the board to that then? I mean, was Sullivan in favor of raising costs and so on, and what was the battle about?
Well, I don't think that any university president wants to raise costs. It's just there's all these pressures, and there's less and less state funding. I mean, UVA is not that unusual in that regard. I mean, there's just lots of pressures on states in the last few years, obviously, with their budgets, and so there's less support coming from states to universities. And so she felt that somehow the university needed to come up with a strategic plan for dealing with that problem. And some people said, well, we'll just go out and raise more money from UVA alumni. We'll get it through philanthropy. And she said, that's not a good answer. I mean, it's just not a good answer to that problem. And So, I admire what she's done. You have to, I think, and that's why she moved back up on the list.
Yeah, that's an inspiring story, and you really singled her out also in your forward. Listen, for anybody on the air listening to this, is Ed Power. He's the publisher of Inside Business, and if you want to get more information about the Inside Business, they have a website that's insidebiz.com, and a lot of these people that we're talking about, you can read about them on their website, and later on after the show, if you'd like to go on there, you can get more information about these very important people in our area. Listen, are there any newcomers on the list that you didn't have last year? Any newcomers?
Definitely.
You talked about Mary. You talked about Mary Jackson. She's the only military person on there.
She's a Navy captain, and it's the first time, certainly my recollection, and I think I'm pretty accurate in saying this, that we've never had a military officer in the top 25 before. So that definitely was new. Charles Barker, who's again well known in the community because of his auto dealerships, he had moved onto a list that we call emeritus because some people really start to step out of the limelight. They retire from their major corporate roles in the community, and so they get moved to emeritus. But Charles has kind of been resurgent lately. He recently bought a major Mercedes dealership.
He has nice cufflinks, I notice.
Yeah, and he, Charles has been a philanthropist in this community for a long, long time, and a lot of it is kind of beneath the radar screen. But he's been doing a lot in that regard. He's been a major supporter of the College Access Fund, which is a scholarship fund for underprivileged students who want to go to college. So he's been giving a lot of money to that and supporting that. So he moved back onto the top 25 list. And then the other person that I would mention is we touched on John Broderick, the president of Old Dominion. There's a guy named Alonzo Brandon, who is the vice president of university advancement at Old Dominion. And basically what that means is Alonzo oversees all the fundraising for Old Dominion. He also oversees and works with the strategic planning folks at Old Dominion, mapping out the near and mid and long-term future for the university. Very dynamic guy, a real thinker.
African American,
which is what you need to be in a job like that. And he's been very successful working in that role. In fact, he just landed not long ago a major gift for Old Dominion, $11 million, which was given by a guy named Mark Strom, who lives in California but is an alumnus of Old Dominion, and he gave the money to fund basically an effort to develop an entrepreneurship department in Old Dominion. And it won't be just for business students. It will be an entrepreneurship program that will appeal to students in all types of majors. So if you're an artist or a musician and you foresee yourself wanting to start your own business in some way, shape, or form, you would go to the programs and learn about entrepreneurship and how you might go about doing that. So really interesting initiative, and again, that's being launched because of the money Alonzo went out and raised for the university.
Now, the 25 most powerful people in Virginia. This is a Hampton Roads list.
It really is, yeah. I mean,
is your magazine published statewide, or are you mainly Hampton Roads?
No, we're purely focused on Hampton Roads, but that also obviously includes the peninsula. So,
and when you say Hampton Roads,
we see our territory and our audience as being Hampton Roads based, and but it's an interesting point because I think there is more of a need for business journals and business news that's localized and regionalized. And I love Richmond. We have an office up there, not Inside Business, but another publication that I work with called Style Weekly. We have an office up in Richmond, and I go up there quite a bit. And it's a great town. Love Richmond, and would love to be able to do something up there focused on the business community there. So who knows? We'll see. But it's a great market.
I'm talking with Ed Power, who is the publisher of Inside Business, and we're talking about the Power List. We're going to be moving on from this Power List and on to your next What is your next? Well, first of all, are you going to have an event for this list? Do you actually have an event where people show up and discuss this like you do for some of your other lists?
We don't yet have an event that's tied into the publication of the list.
But
We've talked about it. Mm-hmm. In fact, I've recently been talking with a few folks outside of our company about the possibility of putting something on around it. So I would say stay tuned. It could be something that we're going to embark on as sort of a logical development of this thing now that we've been doing it for a while. But yeah, we do have a number of events that we put on in the course of a year. Probably, I think I mentioned earlier, somewhere probably in the neighborhood of 20 events. We have Top 40 Under 40.
When is that?
It honors the top 40 young people in the business community, people who are under 40 years of age, who it's not just that they've achieved things in their professions at a young age and advanced very quickly in their professions. It's also about what they're doing in the community, what kinds of organizations they're working with to improve the community. And we get some amazing stories, some of these people. I mean, just stuff that it tires you out just listening to the things that they've achieved. And so it's a great event.
When is that coming out? When will that issue be coming out?
That will come out in the fall. It's typically in October, November time frame.
Well, maybe
we also have our Women in Business Achievement Awards. That's in December. And we will have a special issue around that as we do around the top 40. Through the course of the year, we're obviously covering news. So we're covering things that are happening, now, this week, next week in Hampton Roads. So that's our bread and butter. But we do have special issues like the ones I just mentioned. We also do regular commercial real estate and banking quarterly overviews of what's going on in those industries in Hampton Roads. And then finally, I should mention, we were talking about Gary McCullum earlier. We have a partnership with Cox Communications that we started 5 years ago. It's called the Executive Discussion Series. So once a quarter, we pick a topic. It could be something like business continuity planning because of the hurricane season coming up. It could be transportation. It could be healthcare. We put together a panel of 5 or 6 experts around the topic, and we hold a breakfast. And it's, like I said, once a quarter. We rotate the city that it's held in so that, the locations are accessible for everyone. And we usually get about 250 people who show up for those breakfasts and for the panel discussion. And it's just been a really great partnership with Cox, and people seem to really, love it. So that's going on. And one other thing I should mention, we've touched on the website. We just launched a 5-day-a-week emailed business newsletter that comes out every morning. We've been doing one on Mondays and Fridays for several years, but we just, about 10 days ago, launched the 5-day-a-week one. So anybody interested in receiving that morning business report could go to our website, insidebiz.com, and sign up for that.
Ed, that's awesome. Thanks a lot for being on the show today. We're going to have to wrap this up. This has been Justice for All with your host, George Yates. My guest today has been Ed Power, the publisher of Inside Business. Listen, Ed, we'd love to have you come back on the show, maybe for your top 40 under 40 and your top women in business, maybe later on in the year. So
sure, and there's lots of good things, even between now and then, that we'd love to discuss with your audience. So thanks for having me on, and appreciate it.
Okay, great. This has been Justice for All. This is George Yates. Join us next week on Saturday between 2 and 3. And you have a great weekend, everybody out there.